welcome to the Mosquito Story Slam. Now, here are your fabulous hosts, Vanessa and William.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
What an intro. Thank you, Phil.
Hey,
Phil
guys.
Spletzer, everybody. Let's give him some love for your kitchens or your living rooms. While you shake your martini, he's the perfect guest for us tonight.
Yes.
Hey, guys, this is our first virtual Mosquito Story Slam. What do you
It
think, William?
is. I'm totally psyched. In fact, Phil Spletzer is upstairs playing the piano.
Upstairs
house
from
is-
you.
Yes, he's right upstairs. I hear the little keys tapping. Welcome, everyone, to the Mosquito Virtual Story Slam Spring Awakening.
Yeah, we want to thank you guys for joining us here on the YouTube stream. This is the first time we're trying this, so bear with us, but we think it's going to go pretty well. We had a nice tech rehearsal last night, and we're really excited that in this crazy time, in this surreal reality, that we can be with you together wherever you are. So thank you for joining us. Our theme tonight is Spring Awakening, and we'll talk more about that. But just to let you know, if you've never been to a Mosquito Story Slam live, which we do here on the Outer Cape of Massachusetts, we know people are joining us from all over the place. So we want to welcome you into our very special family. We do stories, live stories, true stories by storytellers who have a story to tell based on the theme of the evening. So tonight you're going to see 8 of them. And we've curated this show. It's a little different than what we do on stage, where we get people from the audience and pick them out of a mosquito net, if there's such a thing. And they're going to tonight tell stories that they've been working on just for this. So we have a really special lineup, and we're doing this in collaboration with one of our favorite co-producers and venues, the Provincetown Theater, and they are streaming this live for us.
Yeah, yay. And what we, Vanessa and I tried to do, if you've been to our live shows before, we have tried to replicate everything about the live show. Obviously, we can't take storytellers just randomly during our show, but we have a curated great list of storytellers tonight. But we are taking your prompts. So some people have submitted beforehand, and we will be reading them just like we do on stage at the regular Mosquito Slam.
Yes, we will be. So if you submitted them online, that's great. And if you didn't, I believe the commenting on the YouTube feed is open. So if you would like to actually just write your comments in the comments on the YouTube feed, this will be, rebroadcast at a later date. Of course, we're happy that you're here live. So those comments will be recorded. So you can reply to that prompt in the comments as well. Are you looking at me, William?
I am.
I feel a little lonely. Can we try to kiss? Can we kiss?
Okay.
I don't know if that worked. I went off screen. It's very complicated.
All right.
All right.
You know, the Mosquito Story Slam is in its 7th season, and it was created by the woman who is right next to me, well, virtually, Vanessa Vartabedian. She has built such a great culture of storytelling here on the Outer Cape. And I just want to give her a round of applause for all the effort that she does for programming. And we do programming throughout the year. That is our mission. We do storytelling in partnership with the Provincetown Theater in every month in the winter and the off season. And we also have storytelling workshops that we do throughout the year. Now, of course, COVID's gotten in the way to a lot of those, but hopefully we'll be back up and running with our storytelling workshops.
At least it wasn't our mosquito that caused the virus.
Yeah.
So we do have a podcast as well. If you guys aren't aware, we'll give you that. It's just the Mosquito Story Slam podcast. You can find it anywhere. It lives on SoundCloud. We'll try to get this up there too. So, we'd like to just remind you that we are doing this for free tonight. We want to join the ranks of offering this kind of free programming to everybody everywhere, just to get people to join us. But, as you can imagine, there are associated production costs with doing this kind of thing for both Provincetown Theater and for the Mosquito organization. Yeah. So there is a donate link in the YouTube channel below the video. So, feel free to go on and contribute whatever you would like to. We would much appreciate it. It would help a lot.
Yeah.
So, why don't we show people how it's done and get started? What do you say, William?
I say, let's get started.
Okay. Well, tonight, this is what we normally do. We have a special storyteller kick off the show for us. So tonight, I would like to introduce you to him. His name is William, and he's actually my amazing new co-host and co-producer. So we are in this boat together. So he carries the storytelling load on this one. He splits his time between New York City and Provincetown, where he is right now with his partner Phil upstairs playing the piano.
Yeah.
And he is also a writer. He's written for the likes of Jane Lynch, and he has also performed at the Moth and Risk podcast. So please give a warm welcome. Don't spill your martini for William Mullen.
Thank you. Peanuts and Cracker Jacks. My mother, not so much a baseball fan, and she grew up in New England, so she had allegiance to Boston. And she tried to push us away from baseball and more into tennis, and he wouldn't have it. He had his mindset on his two sons that he had.
William, your sound is out. Your sound is out.
My sound is out. Can you hear me now? Okay. My sound was out. All right. Am I good now? I'm good now. Sorry, folks. I don't know where I left you, but my father was obsessed with baseball. He had my brother and I when he was 60 years old. So he was really old guy. Okay. So if you ask me what spring meant to me, I would just answer baseball. Because growing up, my father was obsessed with baseball. He loved the sport, the great American pastime, Peanuts and Cracker Jacks, and he loved the New York Yankees. And we lived in the middle of Connecticut, which anyone who knows about the middle of Connecticut, its allegiance are split between the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. My mother, hailing from New England, didn't like the Yankees. She didn't even like baseball. She kept pushing my brother and I to tennis. My father wouldn't have it. His dream was his two sons out in that baseball diamond. And I can remember from such an early age, probably 4 or 5, playing catch with my father. And he would do that all the time, every day when spring came around. He couldn't wait till the little leagues started in my town. And right the first day sign up was allowed, he rushed my brother and I to sign up for teams named like after businesses in town, like the Frank's Pizza or Campanaro Construction. We had a lot of Italians in town. And so he signed us up. And not only did he sign us up for Little League, he signed himself up to be the coach of the team. And then he joined this other old guy who was also in his 70s called Cardi Scow. And these two old guys started coaching us. It was like grumpy old men met a league of their own. And we went out into practice, and my brother and I we weren't excited about this sport at all. But my father put such an effort into it. And I was actually terribly afraid of baseballs because they were very hard. And if they hit you, you could die. So my father would start me out in like outfield, and a pop-up would come, and I would just be like, ah, and I would run away from it. He put me in a shortstop. A line drive would come from a batter, and I would just duck and run out of the way. So he was like, I got to think out of the box here. Oh, I'm going to make him catcher. So he's going to have to face his fear. Now, if anyone played catcher in baseball at any level, it is a pain in the ass. Everyone else in the dugout, all the kids after an inning, could just go out and with their glove and hit their positions. But with the catcher, you had to put up these shin guards and this ludicrous thing that looked like an X-ray thing on your chest to protect it. And then there was the helmet and the mask, and then the catcher mitt. The catcher mitt is different than a regular baseball mitt. Now in our town, this is before sports stores and Amazon. Our town, the teams only had one catcher's mitt, and it was for right-handers, and I'm a lefty. So every time I would actually have to catch the baseball and then put the baseball in my right hand, take off the glove, put the baseball back in my left, and throw it back to the pitcher. Baseball players, parents, everyone just stopping by would look at this and be like, what is wrong with that boy? So this was going on. Meanwhile, he put me in catcher. He was grooming my brother to be a pitcher. Now, my brother had a very strong arm, but he was not accurate at all. And one game, my father announced, Timmy is pitching. Billy, you're going to be catcher. And he was so proud. We start off the game, and my brother could not throw the ball over home plate. He walked in the first inning about 20 players. The ball went anywhere except around the home plate. And my father was there in the dugout yelling, stick with it, Timmy. You got it, Timmy. You can do this. And my poor brother, we're 8 years old or something, tears running down his face. And I'm sitting there, and I've seen enough baseball games to think, well, I think this is where the catcher goes to the baseball, up to the mound to talk to the pitcher and say something. And I almost thought about going up there and saying, okay, Timmy, at the count of 3, let's run and go home. So we're sitting there, tears rolling down his face. And then finally, it was like 10-0, all walks. No one got a hit, which my father did years later would remind us. No one hit off of that pitch. The coaches met midfield and called the inning, so the other team had a chance to hit. So we go, and my father starts rattling off the lineup, and he goes, McKenna, Doherty, Mullen, and I'm like, oh God, me? I have to hit? There's one thing I hated in baseball was hitting. You were open target. You're sitting there, and some 8-year-old without any accuracy is throwing a hard baseball at you. I would get stressed out anytime because you're up there. And in Little League, all the opposing team, all the little players would do this little chant, hey, batter, 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 hey, batter, batter, hey, batter, batter, swing, to try to get you off your mark. It was so stressful. You're the focus, a hard ball's being thrown at you. In this particular game, there was this player, this 8-year-old who was about 4 times the size of any other 8-year-old. His name was Mike, and his fastball was the fastest in all of that Pee Wee Little League. And I sat there in my father's stance that he taught me. And my strategy has always been, try to walk. Don't even swing at the ball because these pitchers are lousy. You're going to walk. But with his, the first pitch goes by, strike, calls out the umpire, who usually is a 13-year-old boy who's changing, whose voice is changing. Or is it back? I'm sitting there. And I was really nervous. These are fastballs. I'm like, just let them go by, and then you'll be safe. The other one goes really fast. Strike 2! Throws it back to Mike. Okay, just one more strike. Just let him go. Let him have it. The next ball he chucks, it's even faster than the other 2, and it just misses my face. I feel the breeze. Catcher catches it. Ball! I couldn't believe it. I was thinking I could have died. That could have hit my jaw. I'm in the danger zone. This is ridiculous. What am I going to do? And I'm thinking, you just got to swing. swing for your life, Billy. So I decided I don't care where the ball was going. It could be over the fence. I don't care where he threw it. I was swinging my bat and getting out of there to save my life. The ball comes. I close my eyes and I swing and clink off of the aluminum bat. And the ball flies over the pitcher, over Mike, over the second base player, and into the outfield. I stand there in shock. And my father's going, "Run, Billy, run!" And I start running to first, and the second baseman now has the ball. He throws it to first, and it goes over the head of the first baseman. And everyone's like, "Run, Billy!" Now, I've never made it past first. This is a whole new territory. And so I'm running. Now the first baseman throws it to the second baseman over his head now. And now it's in the outfield. My father's begging me to go to third. I'm like, third base? This is ridiculous. I've never been to third base. So now he's hailing me home. He's like, "Go home, Billy, go home." And I'm running to home all the time thinking someone's going to throw the ball and it's going to hit me in the back and I'm going to be injured. So I go and I slide in the first. I slide in the home run into the home plate. See, I don't like baseball. I get the terms to this day messed up. And it was a home run. And all the team comes out cheering. And I look up and the stands, they're laughing their faces off like I just finished a set at the Improv. So it didn't make me feel good. I felt like I was an embarrassment. It was like Bad News Bears. And I got in there, and at the end of the game, we lost something like 20-1. I scored the only run. My parents brought us to friendlies, and we had just like every game, we had a Reese's Pieces sundae. Oh my God, they were so good, those Reese's Pieces sundaes. And we're eating, and a waitress comes over and sees us in our uniforms. Campanera Construction, very bright uniforms, and mine were soiled, so it looked like I actually played. And she goes, "Oh, look at these two major league stars." And my father cut her off and said, "Well, you know what? Tennis is really their sport. They're pretty good on that tennis court." So I realized on that day that he realized his dream was gone and he would just have to be satisfied with us on a tennis court. Thank you.
Oh.
I think my brother is watching this. So I just ripped open emotional scarring that he thought was healed for a long time.
Oh man. Hey, Phil, why don't you give us a couple more ditties right there? Let's welcome us back into this again.
Yeah, Yay.
Oh.
See, and that's the irony of the song. I did not care if I ever went back.
But you did hit it right out of the park with that story, Billy.
Well, it was like basically a lane thing over the second baseman. They should have had me out, but
the friendlies thing, every time after anything, every school play, every game. My softball team's name was the Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That was great. All right, folks.
You want to read some prompts?
Yeah, let's,
do some prompts.
A prompt. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to read you the prompt for the prompt responses that people had sent in. This is the prompt that they were given. The smells, the sights, the feeling that spring has arrived. Give us a few lines of when spring awakened you. Okay, so here's a response that we got online. As I nightly walk of the streets of my new home city of Portland, Oregon, I see camellias everywhere. They were my mother. Oh, sorry. This wasn't the one I practiced, so now I'm screwing it up. Okay. As I nightly walk the streets of my new home city of Portland, Oregon, I see camellias everywhere. Camellias. my mom would be mad at me for mispronouncing that. They were my late mother's favorite flower, and I revel in knowing how she would laughingly enjoy learning of my daring devilment as I surreptitiously cut off some branches to take home. How she loved those symbols of spring in her living room. Oh, that's
Oh, that's nice. That's very sweet.
yeah. I can't think right off the top of my head what camellias smell like right now. Can you describe it?
Can I describe it? I have no idea. I mean,
I don't know. If you know what camellias smell like, please put it in the chat of the
yeah.
YouTube here for us. Okay, so we're going to be reading a few of those throughout the show. I'm sorry, whoever's that was, that I kind of messed it up, but that was very poetic. Thank you.
All right, so are we ready for our
earrings
first...
that my mom gave me?
Oh, like, look at those.
Yeah, look at these. My mom's watching. Okay. Should we introduce our next storyteller, William?
I think we should.
Let's do it.
So this storyteller was a breakout artist at Caroline's on Broadway in New York. Great comedy club. She performs at the Moth, and she's a Story Slam winner. She is a Risk podcast storyteller. She's a co-host of a show called Gems Storytelling, and their next show is April 22nd. So follow them on social media for more info at Gems Stories. Please put your hands together for a friend of mine, and I'm so happy she's doing this show. Put your virtual hands together for Sharon Spell.
Hi.
New York City.
Hello. Who doesn't love a fanfare? Thank you so much for that, and thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, William. Thank you, Provincetown's Theater. I am in New York, and I'm coming up on my 13th year of living here. I love it so much. The bumper stickers are right. I do love New York. And I, in the first few years of living here, went through a lot of major milestones. I got divorced, and after my marriage ended, then my parents passed away. But one thing I never had to do was move. The first 10 years I lived in New York, I stayed in the same apartment. And isn't that a blessing? Because that is probably one of the most stressful things I had heard that could happen. But I landed very well when I moved to New York. Like it was meant to be, because I found an apartment that was close to the subway, and the path was well lit, and the rent was very affordable, and the landlords lived in the building, and they brought us food. They brought us Easter cookies at Easter. I mean, how wonderful. So I wasn't getting out of there, but it was just a place to live. It wasn't a home so much as just a place to rest and shower. I had roommates who we were friendly, but we weren't friends, and we weren't family. But I didn't need that at the time. I really just needed to be in New York and start over. And I did. And eventually I fell in love. Isn't that what happens? I fell in love, and of falling in love, he asked me to move in with him. So what do I do about this apartment? Because I want to move in with him, but also like my rent is so cheap. But then we talked about it, we worked on the problem, and he said, you can pay what you're paying in rent now at the new apartment. I just want to start a life with you. And I mean, who can argue with that? But I did, because I wanted to introduce him to my siblings, and I wanted, because I'd already met his family and fell in love with them, and I wanted to do this the right way. So it took until February for me to move. And yeah, I moved in the middle of winter because, I mean, why not? But it gave me some time to purge my stuff, because I didn't want to move everything all at once. I let a lot of stuff go, and I moved in to the apartment where he currently lived. He lived at the time, but he had shared that apartment with his now ex-wife. And I hesitated moving in to that old energy, but the rent was reasonable. I mean, what he said I could pay. And then we were also across from Prospect Park. Like, we could look at the park from our kitchen window. So I moved in, And even though I had gotten rid of a lot of my stuff, there was still a lot of stuff in the apartment because his ex-wife was a bit of a hoarder. And then I started getting rid of her stuff. I understand, like, it's a process, it's hard, but there's a lot of purging, a lot of moving, a lot of this, a lot of that. But I thought, like, you know what? I love this guy. He loves me. Let's start our lives together and let's move forward. Even though it's this old apartment with this old energy, we'll create new energy in it. And we do. And then in the middle of May, he got an email from his landlord inviting us to move out. It was an eviction email. Now, see, I had lived in that first apartment for a decade with technically two-year leases. So it was really a month to month for the majority of the time I was there. So when I found out that the boyfriend didn't actually have a lease, like, my logic told me, get it in writing. Why didn't you get it in writing? But my gut said, I know why you didn't get it in writing, because I also didn't get it in writing, because that's the way it works. And you know what? So be it. It is legal in New York for a landlord to kick you out in order to move his family in. That is a legal thing that exists. But know your rights. It is also legal for you to cry on the subway whenever you want. So enjoy your rights, okay? Just enjoy your rights and move forward, because I believe in, there's a great saying that a friend of mine taught me, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And we could stay there and fight and have even more bad energy, or start new. So we looked for an apartment, had a few near misses, but the apartment we found was back in Astoria, where we moved, but it's closer to his parents, whom I mentioned I love, and we're closer to a laundromat and grocery store and 2 train lines, and there's so many pluses about this move. And the thing that dawned on me along the way is we had this problem arise, this big thing, or seemingly big thing, and instead of attacking each other, we attacked the problem. And it dawned on me what a good path I was actually on. So thank you so much.
That is great.
What song is that? Why can't I put my finger on it?
This
No,
is
what
that's
song was that? Can you hear me?
Phil, what song was that?
I can't help falling in love with you, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. But just because it happens in springtime doesn't mean it's pretty.
I think the rarest thing to happen in storytelling just now was a story about rent and landlords in New York City that ended up happy.
Right. Oh my God, Sharon. Yeah.
That is.
It's true. If you can get through that stuff with somebody, you are golden. Are you guys still together? Did you say it was your first marriage, or?
We are not married. We are living in Delicious Sin together in a lovely 2-bedroom apartment in Astoria. He is in 1 bedroom. I'm in the other. That is decorated with beautiful lights. And
you're living my dream.
That's fantastic.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. I really want to take a moment to applaud storytellers who are here, not having any live feedback in terms of audience reaction. That is really challenging. But
really is.
We've guaranteed them that you're all really enjoying this on the other end. So keep that energy flowing in our direction. I just want to take another moment to remind you of the donate link that's there in case you joined us late. We're hearing 5-minute true stories on the theme Spring Awakening. And
let's read a prompt.
Yeah, why don't we read another prompt? Yeah, go for it, William.
So just a reminder what these little prompts are. They're kind of, during our live show, they're tweet-sized story descriptions. So a lot of people who don't want to sign up as storytellers at our live show have a chance to share their experience with a couple of sentences, and that's what our prompts are. And because we're doing this virtually, we ask people to submit their prompts before the show, and Vanessa and I went through all. We got a great bunch of them, and we've picked some to read to you tonight. So here they are, and you can in the comments add on to some prompts, and the prompt is basically the smells, the sights, the feeling that spring has arrived. Give us a few lines of when spring awakened you. So this person put the sound of peepers.
Ooh, that's
very nice.
Odd.
It's very nice. I never knew what peepers were in like 10 years ago.
They're crazy.
And everyone's like, yeah, and everyone was just like, you can listen to the peepers. Spring is here. And I just was like, peepers, and the only peeper I knew was a peeping Tom. So I was like, that's weird. Are all those weirdo people making noises?
Too much time in New York City and Provincetown.
They're like they're at your window like.
But the peepers, they gather in these huge bunches on these trees. They have no idea that the coronavirus is here. I feel so bad. All right, let's get to our next storyteller.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So next up, guys, have a round of applause for Frank. I'm going to introduce him. He is a foot doctor from the North End of Boston. He also has a podiatry practice in Wellfleet, Truro, and Provincetown, Cape Cod, if you're lucky enough to be here, as some of us are. Oh. And you might just say he's trying to get his foot in the door. No pun intended. All right, everybody, please welcome Frank Campo.
Hi, everybody. Hi, my name's Frank, and I just want to tell you a little story about me. It ends up in the spring, but I just want to tell you a little story about me coming out. And I came out really, really, really young, too. I didn't mean too, but too crazy to sometimes talk about it. But anyway, I was about 16 years old, and I was working in downtown Boston. And I was also in high school, and I was also in the Drum and Bugle Corps. And I had a group of friends from the Drum and Bugle Corps, a group of friends from Downtown Crossing. And it was a diverse group of people, but come to find out, everybody was gay, and I didn't know. And once in a while, they would say, one group would say, let's go to a club, or let's do this, let's do that. And everything was kind of gay, but I went along with it. So I just thought, maybe that's me. So then it came time to get my license. And my mother was always in my business, wondering who am I with, who are these people? What are their last names? Are they Italian? That's the biggest thing, are they Italian? So I was about 16 and a half, and I was going for my driver's license. And it was on Monday nights at the local public high school. Also, Monday nights was the Sylvia Sidney show at Together's club, and it was a drag queen club. So every other Monday, I decided I'm going to skip driver's ed. Someone's going to sign in for me, and I'm going to go to the Sylvia Sidney club or show. So I would do that, and I would bring my homework with me. And I would sit in the back, do my homework, watch all the drag queens, and then go home and have the ball. And my mother would say, honey, what did you get from last night? And I said, oh, Ma, I so wanted to tell her, I learned how to sing This Is My Life by Shirley Bassey, but I couldn't. I had to say, we took a left, we took a right, we did a K-turn, all that stupid shit. And then my aunt was a teacher at one of the local hairdressing schools. And so there was a couple of people that I knew that went there, and they told my aunt they knew me. And especially one of them named George, who was becoming Georgette, went up to my aunt, and she told my aunt that she knew me and all that other stuff. So my aunt, of course, runs to my mother to tell her that I knew gay people. So my mother flipped, and she invited me into her bedroom. When she invites you into your bedroom, you know something's serious. And if she tells you to sit at the foot of the bed, the wrath of God is coming. So she tells me to sit at the foot of the bed, and she asks me, Frank, do you think you're gay? We have a psychiatrist for that. We have pills for that. Come on, just let me know. Do you think you're a gay? And I'm like, you kidding me? She says, if you think that, I'll cut your heart out. I'll cut my own heart out and we'll go to heaven together. I'm like, I'm 17 years old. Am I going to say yes when you crazy lady? So anyway, so that ended that. So I finally get my license, right? I get my license. And it's like, Ma, can I use the car tonight? Why? Because I want to go out with the guys. What guys? Who? When? Where? The 20 questions would come out. And then if you said something really straight, like, I'm going to go to the amateur night at the Squire Club. The amateur night at the Squire Club was a strip joint in Revere. And so that was a real straight thing to do. So it should be like, okay, here's the keys, honey. Be back by 11. So anyway, so that was fun. Anyway, so now years later, it's now Easter. So we're all sitting around the table and all the trees are in bloom. The daffodils are out. The tulips are out. My father goes, ding, 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 ding. I have an announcement to make. And he looks at me and he says, Frank, don't you think it's time that you came out? And everyone just went, what the fuck? It was funny. But everyone just looked at each other and went, what the hell? And my mother, who wanted to condemn me and cut my heart out, she then looks at me and she says, Frank, we love you. We don't care what you do. We don't care who you are, as long as we love you and you love us. That it was so beautiful. It was just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Then all of a sudden, my mother, Jean, becomes Miss Matchmaker. So she thinks that everyone that's gay has to know each other. So she has a boss who is gay. So she says to me, do you want to meet this guy? And I said, why would I want to meet him? She said, because you're a gay and he's a gay. And I'm like, yeah. I said, well, what's he look like? She went, nah. And I said, well, why would you want me to do that? So then she says to me, just answer me one last thing. Do you think you could really make it with a woman? And I said, Ma, why don't you just answer me one last thing? Do you really think you can make it with a woman? And she went, oh, that's disgusting. And my father just turns the paper down. He says, the both of you, shut the hell up. You're making me sick. And that was it. So that was one little thing in my life. But everybody, happy Easter, Bona Pasqua, happy Passover, and stay clean.
Is that I'm coming up? All right. Look,
Yes, that was so great.
the keyboards before it. He's just like,
It's a toy keyboard.
it's a toy
That
keyboard.
was,
He's
it's a toy piano. Yeah.
Toy piano, yeah.
Phil Spletzer. Everyone, round of applause from your homes, please, for Phil for jumping in. He normally plays the piano during our live shows, welcoming people up and down, to and fro from the stage. And he is a very skilled, highly desired professional cellist, pianist, oboist. He's
a professional violinist.
I know, I was kidding. Phil was over there going like this, so I was. So okay, so that was hilarious. That
was amazing. Frank, I also came out to my mother on Easter.
No way.
I don't know what it is about this holiday. It's like Christ is risen and I'm coming out of the closet.
I'm gonna rise to the occasion.
Rising to the occasion.
Well, your mom got a spring awakening there,
Yeah.
Frank boy. And by the way, Sydney Silvey, okay, this is like Boston's version of Divine, right? From Polyester. Like, this guy was like, he wore like a tux and he was like all man by day, but he turned into the nastiest drag queen you have ever. And want to know the reason I know about Sylvia Sidney? My father was also a gay man in Boston at that time, and he was photographing Sylvia Sidney constantly. So I have nightmares about going to his loft to visit him on the weekends and seeing pictures of Sydney Silvey all over the darkroom.
Oh my God.
That was my childhood. That's funny.
So just a reminder of the donation link down there. And if you have any prompts that you want to put in the comments, we do have a lot that were pre-submitted, but feel free and put some down if you have some ideas.
Yeah, I'd love to read them. I'd like to just mention one comment we saw. Somebody did happen to know what camellias smell like. Apparently, they smell like sex.
Like sex.
Like sex.
Okay. All right.
Beautiful thing. Somebody knows, apparently. Have you got a prompt, William, or is it my turn?
It's your turn, I think.
Right.
I did the peepers last time.
You did. Okay. Smells, sights, feeling of spring. Give us a few lines about how spring awakened you. Here we have one that says, freedom from our indoor selves. Oh, if only. No longer trapped by the four walls. Walks in nature, end of winter doldrums, and chance to form a new perspective on things. I love that.
That is true.
If you're lucky enough to be in a place where you can go outside, we can still do that. So
we can. Nature is not canceled.
No.
Yeah. No, that was a good prompt. Yeah. Shall we continue?
Let's do it.
I am so excited about this next storyteller. This storyteller is a journalist and a writer, and he's the associate editor of Provincetown magazine. And while his journalism school classmates are covering wars and politics and the economy, he primarily writes about drag queens, and he couldn't be happier. He is a great friend of mine, and he lives right here in Provincetown, right next door to me, with his husband, singer-songwriter Peter Donnelly. Please put your hands together for Steve DeRoche.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Phil. Hey, everybody. To give you a little idea of what my childhood was like, every single time Bobby Vinton swung through Southern New England, my entire family had to go. Now, just to give you a little context, all of my maternal great-grandparents were Polish immigrants. And so Bobby Vinton is kind of like the Polish Ritchie Valens. You know, Ritchie Valens sang La Bamba, so he was bringing a bit of Mexican culture to the American mainstream. So to Polish Americans, Bobby Vinton was doing the same because he had a hit song with Melody of Love, which has a little bit of Polish in it. And so it's that experience when an immigrant group feels seen by the mainstream. So this was probably, I don't know, I was 7 or 8 years old, so early 80s, and we're going to the Warwick Melody tent in Warwick, Rhode Island. We show up to my grandparents' house, and laid out on the bed are 2 versions for a boy and a girl of the Polish national costume that my grandmother has purchased for my sister and I. Thankfully, mine did not fit, but my sister's did. This just gives you a little idea as to how tightly my family was hanging on to these cultural traditions. Now, my grandparents lived in a neighborhood in my hometown that was just all Polish immigrants. Everybody knew everybody. And actually, it was the descendants of it. Most of the people who lived in this neighborhood had never been to Poland, but Polish was their first language. It was just something they took such pride in. And the neighborhood was at the foot of a hill that in my town, they called Cabbage Hill, because it was all Polish people. So when it was warm out, all you could smell was cooking cabbage. And that was the truth. I mean, I had gone nose blind to it for a while, but if you left and went back, you could really smell it. And also, in the summertime, if you were there on a Sunday afternoon, all you heard blaring out the window was polka music, just as loud as could be. And it was really something that the neighborhood considered to be this authentic Polish experience. And we did it all. We made handmade Polish Christmas ornaments. We made handmade Polish Easter eggs. We had polka parties. We handmade pierogies, handmade kielbasa, the whole deal. Now, mind you, most of these people had never been to Poland. So when it comes time, I'm in high school and I'm chosen to participate in this cultural exchange. to go to Europe. We're going to travel London to Moscow. It's the tail end, the very, very end of the Cold War, the summer of 91. And we're making a swing through Poland. And so the neighborhood's all a buzz, like, oh, Stevie's going to the motherland. Oh, this is so exciting, blah, blah, blah. And so there's this big party for me to go before I leave. And one of the activities we're doing when we go to Poland is we're all going to split up and we're going to go to a family's home for the evening to have dinner with them. And just to experience average Polish life. So the neighborhood loads me down with all this stuff that I have to bring to this family in Poland. One, because we're convinced that they're just living under this really oppressive communist regime and that they don't have access to anything, but also to show how we here in the States are carrying on all the traditions of Poland. We haven't forgotten where we've come from. So I have all this crap that I got to bring with me. And I go to Poland. I'm taken to the suburbs of Warsaw. I'm taken to this home, and there's a mother, a father, a daughter who's 17 years old, which is how old I was at the time, and the old widowed grandmother, the babci, all dressed in black, which was very familiar to me because the old school Polish ladies, it didn't matter how young you were when you were widowed, you were black for the rest of your life. And everybody in the family spoke English except for the old babci. So I get there and I'm taking out all this stuff. I'm showing them, like, look, we made you these Christmas ornaments, these Easter eggs, and they all look a little confused, like, you made these? And it was like, yeah, like this is like a traditional Polish Christmas. And they were like, wow, like we haven't seen these in ever. And then I take out all these pictures of all like the polka festivals and the Polish Catholic church I went to. And the mother in the family looks at me and she's like, why are you all dressed like mountain goat herders from 100 years ago? And I said, I don't know, isn't this what people wear? Like for special occasions, is what we wear for, it seems, everything in my grandparents' neighborhood. I'm always having to put something on that's, I don't know, like I'm ready to herd sheep or something, I don't know. And so finally, it comes time and I take out all the polka cassettes that this neighborhood that my grandparents live in is convinced these people are gonna be so happy. And so it's like Happy Louie and his magic clarinet and Fat Wally and the Oom-Pah-Pah band from Milwaukee or something. And I give it to them and they're like, okay. And I can tell that they're kind of confused. And so they put on one of the cassettes and this polka music starts to blare. And everybody, including the old babci, is a little like, like this. And the father's talking and he says to me, hey, you're from Massachusetts. I went to graduate school at Harvard, so I'm familiar with Massachusetts. And so we're having this conversation. And finally he stops and goes, I don't mean to be insulting. We really appreciate all the gifts, but do you actually like this music? And I didn't want to be insulting because I thought, well, this is what all Polish people listen to. And so I'm kind of hemming and hawing. And then finally he goes, no. He goes and turns it off and he goes, do you like this? And I said, no, I can't stand it. It drives me crazy. And he goes, we don't even know what it is. Where does this music come from? And I was like, well, I was told it came from here. It came from Poland. He's like, well, we know what polka music is, but like, I've never heard of these people. We don't listen to this, whatever. He's like, tell me, who do you like? And now I was 17, but just about a year or so before, I discovered for myself, I discovered who Janis Joplin was. And I was obsessed with her. I'm still obsessed with her. I love her. I can't get enough. And since I was 17, I described it as old-timey music. And I said to him, I don't know if you know, but there's this old-timey singer named Janis Joplin, and I love her. The entire table goes silent, and they freeze, and their eyes, even the babci in the corner, her eyes light up. And then they start to smile. And the father, like, goes back in his chair and goes, we love her. And I was like, what? And he leaps out of his chair, goes over to the stereo. He pulls out Cheap Thrills. He pulls out Pearl, Greatest Hits. I got them old Cosmic Blues Against bootleg versions. He has it all. He goes, I told you. He's like, when I went to graduate school, I went to Harvard. He's like, I saw her in concert. Now, I was obsessed with her. And Janis Joplin gave her very last public performance ever before she sadly died at Harvard Stadium in Cambridge in August of 1970. And he was at that concert. So I'm freaking out because I'm like, you tell me all about it. That's like having been to Woodstock or seeing one of her monumental shows. Like, you saw her last concert ever. And he says it was like watching someone come out and practice witchcraft. Like, she just hit the stage and enchanted the entire audience, and including him. And he said, and I'll never forget it, he said, listening to Janis Joplin was hearing the sound of freedom. That's what freedom sounded like. So we're having this wonderful night. And mind you, I'm all thinking too, going to this family, we're going to have pierogies and gołąbkis and kapusta and buka and kiełbasa for dinner. We had lasagna. And we're listening to Janis Joplin. And even the old Polish widow is in the corner, like, you know, to piece of my heart, like pumping her fist in the air. So I go home and I have to tell this entire neighborhood who wants to hear about Poland and like the old ways. And I'm like, you know, they don't eat that and they don't listen to this. And it's not, and I was like, basically like, you know what, guys, while you were all over here, everybody over there moved on. And they were really crestfallen. But I have to say, like, you know, tomorrow's Easter Sunday, and to Polish Catholics, Easter Sunday, it's bigger than Christmas. It's this huge, huge deal. I'm not religious. I don't know how to cook. But over the years, whenever spring comes and Easter, I kind of remember all of it, because that neighborhood, that wonderful immigrant neighborhood, while structurally it's still there, all of those people are gone. They've all passed away. And so it's a new community of new people making their own memories and, you know, community values and such. But around our house, I still have the Polish Easter eggs. I put on my mask earlier this week and went out and bought some kielbasa and pierogies for tomorrow. And I am not going to listen to polka music, but I think I'll listen to little Janis Joplin. But before I go, I just want to say what my grandmother always used to say to me before we would have dinner. And she would always say Majdonia, which means go wash your hands. So Majdonia, go wash your hands, be safe, and thank you, everybody.
Oh, Stephen DeRoche, that was a fab start. I mean, you know, you gave Phil a lot of material to choose from there, you know, Polish tunes, Janis Joplin. That was a really, really wonderful story.
My favorite line of that whole story was, why are you dressed as goat herders?
And I mean,
we don't have goats here.
Phil's laughing along with us too. You can hear it.
I know.
Oh wow! So I'm sorry. This is like so disorienting being on this screen, isn't it? It's a little while to get used to it, but I think we're doing okay, guys.
I think so.
Yeah, I'd just like to let you know that we're getting a lot of positive comments in the Facebook feed here, which is really nice. Sorry, the YouTube live feed. Everyone really loved Myra Slotnick, Carrie Borowski, Paul Marquis really loved go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Sharon, that was your line, right? Yeah. People are like really digging it. And Caitlin Langstaff, who's my former Mosquito co-producer and co-host, said, William, in all caps, you are really funny. So
thank you. Thanks.
There's lots of clapping hands and lots of stuff. So everybody's really enjoying it. It's nice to know.
Awesome.
For you. For us.
All right. Well, let's read another prompt. We have a few prompts.
Yeah.
We have to get through them. So let's read another one. The smells, the sights, the feeling that spring has arrived. Give us a few lines of when spring awakened you. Leaving the drabness of winter grays and black and bringing out all the colors of spring in my wardrobe.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
I like this color.
Obviously, this person doesn't live in New York City, because grays and blacks are all year round.
Yeah, every day. every day.
Yeah, everyone's like,
took
it's the
out all
first day of spring.
My
And everyone's
spring
like,
perfumes. I just took these all out. I'm putting them one at a time. Can you smell it, William? Is it too strong?
oh, it's very nice. It smells like,
Oh, good.
it smells like that flower that smells like sex.
Camellias.
Camellias.
All right. Okay, so next storyteller.
We do.
Okay, let's do it. All right. Well, we've got somebody else visiting us here from New York City, who is quite a seasoned storyteller. Her name is Adrienne. Adrienne recently won the Moth Story Slam for February. Did you get that? Adrienne recently won the Moth Story Slam for February. No pressure, Adrienne. No pressure. Just letting them know.
Yeah.
And she'll soon be launching her own podcast. I am so psyched about this, with the very funny Ben Hersey, called I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Or I don't know what that is.
It's a
Find out the tone of the podcast when you hear it yourself. So it's a podcast for anyone over 40.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much, I probably, everyone here, probably except my nieces and your nephews, William.
Yeah.
Who needs to keep up with the trends? Everyone over 40. So I don't know. I love this idea. I think it's.
We don't know what the kids are talking about. And Adrienne and Ben need to tell us.
Listen to the podcast and tell us if we're getting it right.
Yes.
Okay. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome Adrienne Frost.
Hi. Oh, music. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I've known William for 50 years, so it's very exciting to be doing this. I've lived in New York almost 26 years, and I moved here from Louisiana. I grew up in Louisiana, where you generally need to find a man to take care of you. That is the philosophy of most women, especially my mom's generation, which was the 50s. Find a man to take care of you, find a man to take care of you. Even if you got a college degree and it didn't matter, find a man to take care of you. So I moved to New York all by myself with a suitcase and a trunk, and that was it. And my mother kept saying to me, I hope when you go to New York, you find a man to take care of you. You have so many emotional problems. You have so many health problems. I hope you find a man to take care of you. And I eventually believed that. So I found a man to take care of me. His name was Chris. He was my manager at Uno's, where I worked serving deep dish pizzas many moons ago. It's not even around anymore, I don't think. And he was my manager, which means I had to move to the Seaport location to serve pizza there because he was in the West Village. And he asked me to marry him. And I said yes, because I needed a man to take care of me. So we decided to get married on a plantation in Louisiana, right outside of Lafayette, where I'm originally from. My brother was going to give me away. I had the most gorgeous dress that wasn't too much, but it was nice and blah, blah, blah. I'm not Jewish, but I sound like I am right now. Anyway, so we, spent all this money. And the night before the wedding, we went to Randall's Crab House on Cully Saloon Road and had our rehearsal dinner. We had a crawfish boil. And everybody was so excited. And I ran into an ex, and he was like, congratulations on getting married. And he sort of had a look in his eye like, I'm glad you found someone to take care of you because you're crazy as fuck. And I was like, yep, that's it. I'm glad I found a guy to take care of me. So the next morning, we didn't have bachelor parties that night, bachelorette parties. I didn't have one because I'm sober and I don't have a lot of female friends. So Chris was going out with my brother and his best man, Mark. And I said, listen, just do me a favor. Don't go to a strip club. If you go to a strip club, which I knew was going to happen, I said, just don't touch anybody, please. Just don't put money in any G-strings. Don't touch a boobie. Look at the boobies, enjoy them and take them in. Please don't touch. So the next morning, I spent the night at the bed and breakfast plantation. And the next morning, I was lying in bed, and on the armoire is my gorgeous dress just hanging there Beautiful, beautiful spring morning in April. And Chris comes into the room and I said, you can't see me. You can't see me. Get out. What are you doing? This is, stop. And he looked very serious and he started to cry. I'm laughing. I'm sorry. And it's terrible. And he said, remember how you told me not to go to a strip club? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I did. I said, okay. And I've got the fog of morning still hanging over me. I hadn't even smoked yet. I quit 15 years ago, but I smoked a lot and I hadn't even had coffee. And there's, and the dress is just calling to me. And he said, I did. And I said, okay, okay. He said, remember how you told me not to touch a stripper? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I did. And I said, okay. He said, I fucked her. And I said, okay, because my mother had paid for this entire wedding. My dress is taunting me from the armoire. His family's flown in from Ohio. My uncle is about to die and he's there. My brother's best friend, who's an amazing chef, is cooking free food for everybody. I said, okay. He said, can we start over? I said, sure, I guess so. Yeah. Fog. So we went down and had breakfast and I got dressed. And this is me, by the way. This is me. Look at that face. Do you see that face? This is me. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? All right, look at this. This is me. This is us getting married. Look at my face. He fucked a stripper. That's what's going through my head right now. He fucked a stripper. There's roses in my bustle and my future husband fucked a stripper. So this is at the reception after I changed out of my clothes. This is the going away outfit that I had on, right? This is the going away outfit. Do you see me? I don't drink, but I wanted to. So we got married and then we got in the car to drive to New Orleans to start our honeymoon. And all of a sudden, about 20 minutes into the ride, it was really quiet. And I just went, what? Like it just hit me. I was like, what? What? And he was like, I thought you said it was okay. And I'm like, how, in what planet? On what planet is this okay? 6 weeks later, I left him. My mother said to me, you can't leave. You need someone to take care of you. He's got insurance. I said, I don't care. I don't care. If I fall down, I'm taking care of it. If I if I'm homeless, I'm taking care of it. And now that's what I do. Thank you.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So what the audience, like, Adrian, that was just amazing. Adrian and I go way back. We've known each other for years, and I knew that some bits of that story, but today, like just now, oh my God. Wow, if the audience can't see this, but so we have our own little grid of all the storytellers, and everyone's like this, and then it's like, and then I left him, and all the storytellers are like, yeah. It was like this huge, like, come on. Oh my God.
Oh man. Well done, Adrian. Well done. Thank God we finally got some swearing on this show. Oh man, that's great. That was.
I
great.
hope my brother's not
Sharing
watching,
that.
like cozy up on the couch with my nephews. Like, come on, nephews, let's go. Oh my God.
Those pictures are great. You're gonna have to send them to us sometime, somehow,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
we can post them with your story.
Definitely.
That'd be really great. I love that when people have pictures with their stories. All right, let's read another prompt. What do you say?
Yeah. Well, let's remind people though that the mosquito. We are hoping, we love this virtual experience has been great, but we do, as we mentioned, ongoing shows throughout the year. you could go to the mosquitostory.org, right, Vanessa? That's our website.
Right. Yes.
Mosquitostory.org.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go to our Facebook. We have a Facebook page, but really important, we our podcast for a year's worth of stories can be found anywhere. You can download the podcast and listen to it via Apple and SoundCloud.
Yeah.
Is where we store them.
Yeah, 6 years. Every single Story Slam is podcast. So we'll try to get this into a podcast as well. We also, I want to mention, some people have been donating on the YouTube stream. So thank you. Thank you. It really goes a long way. This doesn't cost $1 million to produce, but we do have expenses and it does take a lot of work on the back end. So we really appreciate it. And we want to be able to do it again. So we are planning on continuing to do this once a month for as long as we need to come to you in this mediated form. So, so again, we want to thank you for being here and participating in every way that you can. So is it my turn?
It's your turn to read a prompt.
All right. Oh, I love a good love story. That's what it's all about, right? Spring awakening for me was the first time another man took me in his arms and kissed me. It was as if that moment that unlocked my soul and allowed me to breathe for the first time. Whew, that's powerful.
Ooh,
it was on the grounds of Roanoke, William Faulkner's stately plantation home in Oxford, Mississippi. At midnight, under the epic pine trees and next to the old slave quarters, is when Leo leaned in and kissed me and changed my life. Woo! I'll say.
Wow.
That's really interesting because me and my old theater company, my old creative partner, we produced a play in Provincetown called Faulkner's Bicycle that took place right then and there. And my character had to kiss William Faulkner, in a tree.
Wow.
And I did. Yeah.
I guess it's rubbing off at the play.
A lot of romance there. That must be a magical spot.
All right. Well, let's keep our storytellers going. I hope everyone's having a great time.
Yeah, we seem to have a storyteller up next who's MIA.
Oh.
Adam, calling Adam. We're sure he's either mixing a martini or taking his dog out for. I hope he didn't fall on the floor from excitement. Oh, there he is. He's getting. Okay, don't start yet, Adam.
Right, hold on,
okay, we've got Adam on deck. So let's.
Adam Howard recently rejoined the Provincetown art scene after many years away. He is an accomplished cabaret performer, writer, and a raconteur. He also publishes his poetry daily on his Facebook page. Please give a virtual applause to Adam Howard.
Okay, he's trying to unmute. Let me help him. So Adam, let me do this for you. Stop clicking around here and then let me see. Having trouble doing it. Can you unmute yourself? Good. There you go. You're live.
I don't know you people. But anyway, I sent recently a picture of my PPE to my mother on Facebook, and she immediately messaged 500 of her friends telling them that her son had finally become a successful, I don't know, what do you call it? A proctologist. But at any rate, it's very difficult, as you know, to not have a live audience. And from computers, as you can already tell from my introduction, I have no clue. I can do an 8-track player, I can do a rotary phone. Computers I don't know from, so I'm not touching anything. But I just wanted to let you know that I've already learned a lot this evening from the performance. Now you can see my beautiful face. What I love about these masks is that they actually hide your turkey neck, which is really an extra feature, which I kind of adore. But I learned already this evening that camellias smell like regret. which I thought was kind of interesting. And I want to first, I have to let you know, I also have, in regard to social distancing, I have my tape measure, so I can have my 6 feet. I also, in case I have the odd chance or the off chance of being able to take an inside leg. And the best thing about it is I wear this to the Stop and Shop, and people think I'm an undertaker. So I get my toilet paper. People just stay far, far away from me. But I want to thank, first of all, I'd like to thank the crew at Mosquito, Vanessa, William, the whole crew, for inviting me back. I think it was quite an honor, and I really do appreciate it. And also to thank the Provincetown Theater and its very special director, Mr. David Drake, for, as I told you, David, the show will go on no matter what, and no matter what form. So the show will always go on. I want to, because we don't have a live audience, and because this is kind of, it seems a little cold and distant. It's really not. It's actually rather intimate once you get familiar with it. But to break the ice, I know that the theme for this evening is Spring Awakening. And I know that that name and that topic was brought up many, many months ago and planned long before our current social situation. So I'm going to start with a quick anecdotal story about nuclear winter. And then we'll go into my spring story. True story. Years ago, I was doing a one-man show, Christmas Carol, all by myself in Cape May, New Jersey, a very wintry night, and the snow was piling up and 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 piling up outside the window. And I was very concerned that there was going to be a very, very small house owing to the weather. So I remember from off stage, just before the show started, I called out loud to the house manager and I said, "How's the house tonight?" And she said, "Intimate." And I said, "How intimate?" And she said, 2. So then I said, "Well, I don't know who they are, but they must be very wealthy because they bought out the entire house." So that's how we started that show. And it's actually one of the best shows that I've ever done in my life. And I know before we started, the audience should know that we all took a deep, centering, cleansing breath as a group before we started to just get rid of some of the tension and rid of some of the nerves, which are obviously still here. But anyway, I'd like the audience to do that with us, to take a very deep centering breath. Go ahead, everybody take a deep breath in the audience. Let it out. Okay, now I want you to take another very, very deep centering breath. And what I'd like you to do is hold it for a full 5 minutes, which is going to save me a hell of a lot of work. That's what I'd like you to do. But at any rate, I also wanted to let the Provincetown Business Guild know that it's probably time that they update their brochure, because there's a lot of things that are not as advertised previously. So we may need to do a little rewrite for the next couple of months, and hopefully everything will be great. What I'd like to do, though, before I get into my little unscripted spiel, is to check in with you and to find out genuinely, really, sincerely, how you're doing. What are you doing? How are you coping? How are you dealing? You can feel free to leave comments below. They can be brief, they can be long. Go ahead and vent and just let me know, because I'm genuinely interested, and everybody else know exactly what you're doing. Maybe you're doing something that'll be helpful to somebody else, and it'll give them a chance to get through this a little better. As for myself, I'm also under house arrest. So, but I'm okay. It's just like being a kid again, doing what I did again. It's like 1974. Gas is $1.50 a gallon, and I'm grounded. So that's where we're at. And I'm okay. I've got my medicine. That's good. I've got my pecan pie. There will be no flattening of the curves tonight. And so let's deal with the realities here. So we're dealing with perhaps A Silent Spring, a book that was written many, many years ago about pollution, but it's far from silent out there except for our noise. The birds are chirping, everything is alive and happening, but we're not out there. And so we may have a solitary summer and we may have a fallow fall. No one knows what's going to be. But during this period of introspection, and which has been imposed upon us, I personally am taking this opportunity, and I think it's an opportunity, to create, to write daily, to do something, a puzzle, anything that is positive. And in future, we will be able to all get together under much happier circumstances. But what this is, Spring Awakening, is a chance to spring into art, spring into action, spring into designing, developing whole new systems of being, because it's not going to be the way it was. And not for a long time, maybe not ever. So maybe instead of a handshake, it's a tip of a hat. I don't know. Nobody knows. But what I do know is that we have a golden opportunity now during this period to create an entire new world from the ground up. And what we will awaken to is really what we determine collectively what we want, a brand new world. So with that being said, those who were cruelly taken from us and perhaps unnecessarily taken from us, I'm going to look at them as martyrs, and I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure that a world is born anew out of their sacrifice and their loss and their memory. We've already been through other plagues. I certainly remember one in particular, and ask me how I know. I already paid at the office. I already gave it at the office during the last one, and I'm not about to do that again if I can help it. So we will survive this, and we will come out on the other end of it, and we will be much better for it if, and only if, we all do our part and stick together. This is either going to tear us apart or bring us even closer together. So with that being said, I know I'm wearing my glasses. I was told there's a little bit of issue with glare off of my glasses. I apologize, but I'm 61 years old and I can't even see the screen without them. I can't see, I can't pee. It's a real fucking picnic. Let me tell you, getting old. It's not, I don't recommend it. But at any rate, when Dear Prudence says, can we come out to play? On that day, I want you to know that I personally am reserving for you front row grandstand seats to the greatest show on earth. And with that, I would like to wish you all a happy spring and to say you are loved. God bless you. I thank you. And good night.
Wow, that Adam, thank you, bringing some levity here to our show and reminding us why we have to do this show virtually. What was amazing is it doesn't matter the audience; it matters that we're reaching out to them. I think a lot of us storytellers have an artistic background like you, and when you said there was two people, I remember in my stand-up comedy days at what was the stand-up comedy club? It starts with an E. What is it? Easton? I forget, but it was in the East Village, and they had a show. I was on it with Ali Wong. Actually, she made it big.
Yeah, wow.
And there was one person in the audience,
Oh.
and they made us do a comedy show for this one kid, and he was only there because he wanted to be a stand-up
Bill
comic.
is saying it was him. He was the only one in the audience.
No, he wasn't. He was sick of my stand-up by then. He was sick. He stayed home.
Oh.
And my whole set was sitting at the edge of the stage telling this young man why he should never get into stand-up comedy. And I think he left, and he's a plumber now. I think he's no, I have no idea what he is, but I'm hoping he's a plumber. He has a good union job.
It makes a killing.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well,
All
we
right.
needed a reality check with that. So thank
You really did.
Adam. Adam just recently moved back to Provincetown. So it's really nice to have you here sharing the local love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any more prompts? I don't even think
I do. I have
You
two
have
more,
another one?
I have
Alright.
2 more prompts. It's raining prompts on me.
Oh, it's cool. Like,
Um,
people are still loving this on the YouTube feed.
Great.
Well, we know we're going a few minutes over. We've got 2 more storytellers, and they're definitely highlights. So hang in with us, people, and
Yep.
you're not going to want to miss these. So
All right. So I think this is my last prompt, but the smells, the sights, the feeling of spring has arrived. Give us a few lines of when spring awakened you. Spring. And my best friend's older brother, I thought, was a movie star. Right after he graduated from reform school. We met in Central Park.
Oh yeah.
I was on roller skates, and he was a true hippie.
Ay, ay, ay.
We got high, and then he accepted my excited virginity.
Oh.
Spring had fucking sprung.
Oh yes, it did.
Wow.
Gone are the days
really-
of sex in Central Park, I tell you.
Is that on Netflix? Because I gotta cue that up. Cue it up.
Roller skates, leftover hippie vibes,
Totally.
marijuana reform
Wa-
school. You just don't get that.
Once upon a time in Central Park.
So romantic.
Yeah.
So romantic. Dirty
All right.
Central Park. I love it.
Okay. We
All
have a next
right.
storyteller.
Next storyteller. All right, you guys. Let's do it. Okay, so this next storyteller has told many stories at the Mosquito Story Slam. She's currently in Northampton, Massachusetts, writing some brilliant plays, I think, because she's a playwright. So her name is Meryl Cohn. She's a playwright and fiction writer and a retired advice columnist. This is true. I actually played a version of her in a play that she wrote. And she's going to tell you the name of the play when she comes on because my brain is totally dead. I want to call it like misbehavior or something like that. And she also trained as a mediator, but she realized that she doesn't like conflict. So that didn't work out. She lives in Northampton and Provincetown with her wife, MB, who's just delightful, and her poodle baby, Cass. So without further ado, please welcome Meryl Cohn.
Vanessa, you are in my play that was called Ask Andrea Anything, and I didn't know it was based on me. So it's the year 2000, and I'm a professional advice columnist, actually. And the column I write is called Misbehavior. It's in a lot of newspapers, and I have published a book. But the moment that things change for me is when I'm invited to appear on Oprah, because now people think I must know what I'm talking about. And the thing is that I feel like I'm a total imposter. And the reason I feel like an imposter is because I'm giving advice about sex and love and relationships, and I am in the most tumultuous relationship ever. So I feel totally like a fake. So I had moved to Provincetown, and now I'm in Provincetown with this woman who was supposed to be a summer fling. But sometimes these things lasts longer than you think. And because Provincetown is a very bleak and dark and windy place in the winter. So I think a lot of like long relationships evolve from that. So this woman, well, my therapist at the time described our relationship as islands of ecstasy in the sea of pain. This woman had a fantasy that she was Tarzan. She wanted me to be Jane. I am no Jane. And we spent a lot of time in couples therapy. Things didn't really get better. And finally, the third winter we were together, she went someplace warm and I went to New York. Now, when I went to New York, I reconnected with some friends. I had lived in New York before, and one woman who I was spending time with always wanted me to give her advice, because I'm an advice columnist, about her love life. And so she would always tell me about her blind dates and, you know, should I go out with the one who wants to kickbox? I think she wants to kick me. Should I go out with the one who's crazy, but she's really attractive? And how much does attractive and crazy, you know, balance each other out? And I noticed that I was having a really good time with her, and she invited me to go to the opera with her on a Monday. And what she didn't say was that Monday was Valentine's Day. When we went out to dinner, the waiter was putting little Valentines on our plate. And she said to me, you know, of all the blind dates I go on, you're actually my best date. And I said, you're not allowed to say that to me, because actually I have a girlfriend halfway across the world. It's a weird relationship, but you can't say that. So in return for her taking me to the opera, I took her to a play. It was naturally the Vagina Monologues. And after the Vagina Matinee, I found that we walked around for like 14 hours. I mean, we just did not want the day to end, and we just were going out for coffee, and we were going to bookstores, and we were hanging out. And then, like a couple of days later, it was time for me to go back to Provincetown, back to Tarzan and our couples therapy that wasn't going very well. And a couple of days later, my friend from New York called me, and she said, I have to tell you, spring has sprung here. It's really beautiful. I wish you were still here. Everything is blooming. And she said, and I have something to tell you. So I wait for it. And she says, you're in love with me. And I say, are you kidding me? I'm not in love with you. If I were in love with you, I would know it in any way. I still have this relationship, so you can't even say that to me. And then I'm struck by this weird feeling, like I'm an advice columnist. I have an ethical responsibility as an advice columnist to stick to the kind of things that I tell people, because otherwise I'm a hypocrite. And what I tell people is you're supposed to respect the boundaries of your relationship. And if you have an open relationship, that's fine. But if not, you know, you have to kind of stay in your lane. And so I start feeling really uncomfortable, and I start to feel like a lot of inner conflict, and I start expressing my inner conflict. And a few days later, I say to her, look, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to be able to, we shouldn't call each other. Let's not email each other, because I find myself obsessing over when the next email is going to come. So I cut it off, and she is pissed. I mean, she is really angry, and she feels really hurt, and she's crying, and I feel terrible. And, you know, she says to me, well, you're too tall for me anyway. This never would have worked. And we get off the phone, and I feel like my heart is really sinking. And I think, oh my God, what if she's right? What if I am in love with her? And she also, the other thing that she said to me is, what you're not realizing is that I am probably the great love of your life, and you're really blowing this. So at first I think she's, you know, has a very high opinion of herself. And then I think maybe she's right. So once we end that, you know, I just have to stick to it. So 43 days pass. And after 43 days, I go to a friend's house, another writer in Provincetown, and she happens to have a picture of this woman sitting on her desk. And I look at this photograph and I realize, what is wrong with me? This woman is beautiful. She's funny. She's smart. And I miss her. And I just miss talking to her all the time. And I don't know. I think I probably have really blown this, and probably she's going out with a lot of blind dates, and she might actually fall in love. So I feel panicked. I call her, and she won't talk to me because 43 days have passed, and she's fucking pissed. She's furious at me. I have to beg my way back in. I have to apologize, and I am feeling really sorry. And she accepts my apology eventually, and we start to talk again. And then we talk constantly. And after this conversation, I go outside and I suddenly notice all the trees are in bloom and the petunias on my deck are in bloom. And I miss this because you know what? She had noticed spring 2 months ago. And I was like so busy dampening down my feelings that I didn't notice anything. So I went 2 more times to couples therapy with Tarzan. We broke up amicably. She said to me, you know, this probably should have been a summer fling. And I said, okay, yes, it probably should have been a summer fling. And I was able to call my friend in New York and say, you know, I'm free now and I'd really like to see you. So she acted very quickly. By the next day, she had a sublet for me in New York. And you know how hard that is, but she had the lesbian network on her side. She called her ex-lover, whose current girlfriend had an apartment, and I was able to sublet it. So I filled my car with suitcases. It was like my version of a U-Haul, and I drove to New York. And as soon as I got there, my friend handed me the key. And of course, I immediately went and made a copy for her. So she moved in with me, and we had not even slept together yet. And so that night we went on our very first official date to the movies. She carried with her a little red stepladder because she had also said that I was too tall for her. And she set it up on the street and she stood on it, and we had our first kiss on the street. And there were people walking by and they stopped and they cheered because, unlike me, these people were able to see love in the first moment that it occurred. And that first date was just about 20 years ago, and we've been together ever since. And I do have a visual. Here is, we still have the little red stepladder.
Amazing. Nice.
That was just,
thank you.
Meryl, that was so beautiful. That was so wonderful. And on top of it, another happy New York City rental story. Like, a sublet just appeared. We're going to almost make it seem like it's easy to get a place in New York. So we better be careful. But that was amazing.
And I believe that was MB I heard laughing in the background, eh?
That's great.
MB, come onto the screen and say hi to everybody. Let's see her. Peek up behind.
This is the persistent woman who did not give up. Yay.
Hi, MB.
Just a story.
Thank you for telling that story.
Fantastic.
That's
great.
I want to also thank Meryl for giving me my one and only lesbian experience in that play. I was the only straight girl in the play, and I was the lead, and I had to make out with every other woman in the play. I'm telling you, it was like a dream come true.
So it was kind of like college for you.
It was a little like what I missed out on in college.
It was kind of like Smith College.
It made me think. I could maybe
Mount Holyoke, you know, those schools.
Oh, no, fantastic play. She's an amazing playwright, and fantastic, beautiful story. So perfect for spring. That was well done, Meryl. Thank you very much.
All right. Well,
so
we have one more story time.
Yeah, I want to just do something real quick before we go to that. I want to just point out we have been getting some donations here, and I just want to call out a couple of people who have donated.
Bill Gates.
Lots of good comments here. That was great, Meryl from Hounds About Town. Jack Levinson said you're a genius. Everyone else loves you. So big thanks for donating, Dana B's family. Dana B's family. That's our next storyteller. Dana B. We have also Matt C. in Sharon, Massachusetts. We have a lot of Meryl fans here. Oh, Elizabeth and Steve Douglas in Ashburnham, Massachusetts. Our storyteller friend Matt Cecil's here. He says, hi, nice to see us. Colette Sweet Nikki, thanks for donating. I'm living in her house in Truro right now. This is where I am. Thanks, Colette. Susan H. in Situate. And David Q in Delaware. Go Delaware. So thank you guys. And we have one more storyteller left. I believe the donate link will stay up, and believe us, that is going to be much
Yeah.
appreciated and go far.
But
So
you know, before we get to our last storyteller, again, such a great thanks to the Provincetown Theater, our partner in producing the Mosquito Story Slam.
yes,
Thanks to Tom, Derek, David, Furman, all a part of producing this
we
show
love
tonight.
Provincetown Theater. If you guys are ever in town, when we get back into the space, it's a magical place, and they do have other virtual programming happening too. So stay tuned on their virtual programming. They do the Laramie Project, that's going to be running again on the 14th, and they have some more shows coming up from past productions that are totally genius, honestly, and they're great quality, so you can watch them on YouTube.
Okay, our last storyteller of the evening. Oh, I love this woman, but I'm gay, so we can't have a thing. But maybe I'll have a straight thing, like Vanessa had a lesbian
Well, I don't know,
thing.
she's divorced now. You can hear her really crazy marriage story.
Okay.
With her unstable.
Well, Dana has appeared all over the New York storytelling scene at Happy Hour Story Hour, Dummies and Company, Bigger Storytelling Roadshow, such a great show, and more. She's been at the Mosquito twice. She rocks it. And earlier this year, she produced and hosted her own story slam called the Deer Tick Story Slam in Port Townsend, Washington, as a Centrum Foundation artist in residence. Ooh. You can see a lot of her work by going to the link in her bio at Dana Tells Stories on Instagram.
Do it.
Put your hands together for our last storyteller of the evening, Dana Brodsky.
Woohoo!
Yay! All right. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us this long. So I think that watching a loved one overdose on heroin might be enough to convince a normal person that being friends with junkies is a little more trouble than it's worth, but not me, apparently. You know, and there really was like no reason for me to be hanging out with hard drug users when I was 18 years old. I didn't do drugs. And being a freshman at NYU, I should have been busy with school or, you know, trying to make friends that I had a little more in common with. But from my perspective, these street kids that I was hanging out with in the East Village were way more interesting than, say, going to class or studying. And also, I think having grown up the youngest in a house full of kids with really big personalities, I developed this like lifelong craving for attention from people that I think are cool. And one thing I learned growing up in that house is if you want to hang out with the big kids, you got to be ready to do whatever, whenever. You got to be cool. So in that way, it kind of makes sense that the day that my friend Pete OD'd on heroin in my dorm in the spring of my freshman year was actually kind of like a great day for me personally. Not being a heroin user myself, I was always like the low man on the totem pole in that crowd, like kind of a bit player. But that day, I was a star. I had saved my friend's life with my quick thinking, and I had been brave and strong in the hospital. And I got Pete's undivided attention for hours while I waited with him in the emergency room. And back then, I wouldn't have said that Pete was a heroin addict per se. You know, unlike most of his friends, he still had a home and a job, and his clothes were clean. He didn't beg for money. In the parlance of the scene, you might have said that he liked to party, but he didn't have a habit yet. But that summer, between my freshman and sophomore year, Pete fell madly in love with this girl, Dawn, who was a stone cold junkie. She was like the queen of the junkies. And when I first met Pete, he was fun and funny. He liked to show off on his skateboard and draw funny comics, and he would do anything for a laugh. And I just followed him around like a puppy, like I just eating it up. I loved it. But by the time I got back to school for sophomore year that fall, Pete really only had two interests left: Dawn and dope. And I realized that things had changed the day that they showed up at my dorm together, which was kind of unusual. And the story that they had told me was that Pete had an abscess somewhere on his body, and Dawn had procured this surgical knife and she was going to cut it out for him. And they just needed to use my bathroom to do it. And it was kind of a bizarre request, but like honestly, par for the course when you're friends with homeless junkies. So like, I don't know, I let them do it. But when they came out of the bathroom, it was clear that they had been shooting up in there, and that like I definitely wasn't cool with. And then another time that Pete showed up at my dorm, the story was that Dawn had an opportunity to make $100 being a live model at a drawing class in Brooklyn, but she just needed $5 for them to take the train there first. And at that point, I had been friends with drug addicts for long enough to know that no matter what it says on the cardboard sign about them needing a place to sleep or food or a bus to get home, that money's all going to one place in New York. So I knew enough to know that he was lying, and it broke my heart, but I told him I didn't have it, and I basically shut the door in his face. And then after that, I just kind of started doing things on my own. And I actually started trying to focus on school and make up for like 3 semesters of barely doing any work because I was just hanging out with these street kids all the time. And until one day, almost exactly a year after the day that Pete had OD'd in my dorm, he showed up to visit. And he looked better than I had seen him in a long time. Like his clothes were clean, his nails were clean, he was in a good mood. And he said that he just wanted to like hang out like old times and watch The Simpsons. And if it had been the year before, I totally would have done it. I would have dropped whatever I was doing to hang out with him all day. But after everything that had happened, like I just didn't feel the need to like let him dictate the terms of our relationship anymore. And so I told him, I was like, you know, I'm working on this big paper for school. I can't do anything until it's done. And I gave him a hug and I sent him on his way. And then I actually, even though the paper wasn't due for a couple of days, I kind of like rushed and got it done that day because I was hoping I would be able to see him later in the week. And then the next day, I was at my work study job and I got a call that Pete had died of a drug overdose the night before. And it was very tempting to blame myself and say, like, oh, if only I had let him in, like he wouldn't have gone wherever he went off to, and he'd still be alive right now. And so I went outside to kind of like process this information, and I'm sitting on a bench in Washington Square Park, kind of like watching the city come back to life after a long winter. And it occurred to me though that like I was never really going to be able to save him in the long run. And actually, I was kind of just grateful that I had stuck to my guns and gotten that paper done because like even though I wasn't going to be able to hang out with him, at least now I had time to go to his funeral. And that's it. Ending on a happy note. Thank you so much, Vanessa and William. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. Well, we certainly didn't want to leave the audience on a high note tonight.
No, Dana, you always have great stories. I mean, honestly though, I think we need to start a separate like channel for you on the podcast. It's just like Dana's relationship.
Dana's relationships.
There's more on there. You got to hear them. But I really relate, and I'm sure there's other people like us out there who can too. My mother's listening. She's like, yup.
So
you're younger than me. You're younger than me. You have hope.
That is it for our show. Let's put our hands together virtually, and I think you're going to see, audience, all the storytellers tonight. Let's go. Can everyone see everyone?
Yeah,
I think they can.
Let's bring all the storytellers up.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah, we have Adrienne Frost, Meryl Cohn, and Dana Brodsky, Phil on piano, Sharon Spell, Steve DeRoche, Adam Howard, and Frank Campo. Woo! I got everyone.
Yay,
Right?
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hopefully you're seeing everybody. Oh, I can see that you are. This is great. Thank you guys, all storytellers. Thank you for these stories. We really need this right now. I hope it felt and brought some connection to you as a storyteller in a storytelling community, and also to you guys watching on YouTube. Please make sure to share this link with other people. Tell them to check out more of the virtual programming, and we will keep you posted about what we're going to do next month. In the meantime, listen to the podcast, Mosquito Story Slam. Search for us online. You'll find us. Anything else you want to add there, William, or anybody else here tonight?
It's a great connection. It's a great
connection
connection for everybody.
Yeah. And it's nice to
thank you.
In
Thank
this
you
time
so
of-
much.
In this time, we need connection, and this is the best connection you could ever do.
Yeah.
It's,
Thanks.
it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash
Yeah,
your
wash
hands.
your
All
hands.
right, guys, and stay
Yeah.
the fuck at home. We can do it.
You.
We love you. Thank you. Guys. Provincetown.
Love you guys. Thank you so much. Love you.
Have a beautiful night.
I'm never smelling camellias again.
I love all you guys. Thank you so much.
Everyone make their funniest face.